There we go. My mic was down. So, hello, guys. Welcome coming in. Welcome to our live stream. Hopefully, another great evening, another great conversation. There we go. My mic was down. So, hello. A question before you begin the subject. Can you tell me the difference between virtual box and virtual machine? Um, Virtual machine is essentially what you build on VirtualBox. VirtualBox is essentially a software that allows you to virtualize virtual machines on your Windows machine, on your MacBook, or whatever it is. So the same thing as VirtualBox or VMware. There's different kind of things, but essentially, yeah, VirtualBox is what allows you to build virtualization or allows you to build a virtual machine. A virtual machine is the actual, it's a virtualized essentially computer. Albert says, pen tester or cloud security engineer? Cloud security engineer, hands down. Pen tester, you have to remember, I've been talking a lot about this, guys. The pen tester is not an entry level route into cybersecurity, so it's near impossible to land an entry level pen tester role. So, cloud security engineering all the time. Welcome, guys. Hopefully, you get some more people, get some great conversations and great questions. So, hopefully now everyone can hear on all the platforms. I just realized I had a muted mic on the other platforms. So good stuff. Hello, guys coming in. I guess I'll just cover some of the basics what we always discuss in these things. So we've been running these lives for a little while now, and I think we talk about the same thing. I was just about to talk about this, Albert. You don't need excellent coding experience to get into cybersecurity, especially on a junior level. You know, coding is an advanced skill that you only gather in sort of more advanced roles, or specifically like pen testing. You might do some coding when you become a senior security engineer, but when you start out, especially like in SOC, in GRC, and in different various disciplines, you don't necessarily need coding or skills. All you need to do is learn how to navigate CLI or command line interface in like Linux systems. But that's again rare as well. You end up in an organization that is Microsoft house. You're not necessarily going to even touch Linux. So yeah, not necessarily. What map should I follow someone starting in CSEC? Dazzle, I would first of all say, and I keep talking about this every single time, you have to guys figure it out what you want to do. Cybersecurity is an industry, is not necessarily a role. So I think we discussed and the guys talked about in previous streams. There is TryHackMe has a great explainer path which explains what each role does and what it entails. Because I always say to people, you can't really, guys, build a path into cybersecurity if you kind of have no clue or direct a role that you want to build a path towards. Because SOC analyst is completely different. What would you do versus GRC analyst versus pen tester versus security engineer? So do a bit of research, figure it out, what each role entails, what skills you need, and then you can build your path into that. Because um, then you can direct kind of your training, your skill sets into that path. So that's the first thing you need to do. And then we can, build from that. Let's see what I just, there was a few questions. Does offensive security has something to do with networking? Mr. Brown says, yeah, every attack essentially starts, everything in cybersecurity or any field in technology starts with networking, because networking is, internet. You can't connect to anything without networking. Computers interact with each other by networking. So I always say to people, I think people too often trying to short circuit their path into cybersecurity and neglecting the basics. You start with hardware, operating systems, then networking, and then you go and build cybersecurity skills and knowledge. You Loads of people just jump straight into CompTIA Security Plus, neglecting networking and all of that, and then they struggle because they can't understand the concepts. You can't um, do cybersecurity if you don't understand. Networking is firewalls, networks, VNets. All of that is an important aspect of your career, so you can't do one without the other. Trying to get into DevSecOps. Urma says, um, again, it depends where have you start, what have you done before. Because DevSecOps is not, again, it's not an entry level necessarily discipline, because the greatest guys that go to DevSecOps either come from security engineering or from software engineering, because you need to learn threat modeling, you need to understand how to deploy security tools into the pipelines, how to help and secure essentially code for developers. So you need some level of understanding of good coding practices and all of that. So it's tough. What programming language does cybersecurity require expert field? Um, you don't need to be expert in anything, but if you're starting out, Bash and PowerShell is a good starting point. Uh, Yeah, no, I think everyone seems really interested in offensive security, but the problem is offensive security is not an entry level role. So it's really hard to build the skills into offensive security. What else was there? Alice says, following your vid on home lab setup, having a bit hard time setting up Wazoo on Ubuntu. Any advice? Um, Again, Google or ChatGPT is your friend, but I would say you would not necessarily want to set up Wazoo on Ubuntu. Wazoo is ideally being set up on Windows. So if you remember, I explained on the Home Lab videos, I said you have Kali Linux as an offensive machine, you got Security Onion as a defensive machine, and you put a Wazoo on a Windows server or a Windows endpoint, and then you can do attacks with a Kali Linux on the machine, and then Wazoo will be your EDR, which can pick up attacks from endpoint perspective, and then you can use Wireshark to pick up attacks from networking perspective, and so on and so forth. Are there? Sorry, I just missed one. Are there organizations where one can do internship even unpaid and build skills? Frank Line says, yes. I always say to people, especially a good starting point is have a look at charities. Charities always need an unpaid work, and it's a great way to build skills, knowledge, and add something on your CV and build a bit of experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be, cybersecurity, but IT, and then you can build on that. But yeah, have a look at charities. Deal says, what company is great for junior pen tester roles? I don't think there is any company great for junior pen testing roles, because I keep saying, guys, pen testing is not a junior role, and it's nearly impossible to find junior roles in pen testing. It was a cybersecurity certificate, IBM at University of People. Is it worth it? No. Ashton says, can I get into GRC if I do certs and projects? Of course you can. For sentencing. Is Parrot Linux good for sentencing? I don't have a clue what is sentencing. Can I get into GRC? Yeah. And have 1 year IT experience. Yeah, you can. It's just about building skills and knowledge into GRC, how to write security policies, how to do risk assessment and risk management, how learn compliance, get a cert, for example, ISO 27001 lead auditor. And then, yeah, of course. Mm-mm-mm. What else was there? unethical hacking. You shouldn't do unethical hacking if you don't want to end in a jail. You go deeply in networks and DNS, HTTP firewalls, etc. Yeah, definitely. Where can I learn about network security? CompTIA Network Plus. Go on Udemy. I always say, Udemy is a good start point. Have a look at Jason Dion's. I love the way he delivers materials. So CompTIA Network Plus on Udemy, you can buy one for like $15. It's like cheaper than chips. So yeah, do that. Alberto. Hey, Alberto. Yeah, cool. Yeah, not necessarily asking questions. You can listen in and you can still learn, and hopefully other people can ask some good questions. But good to see you, Alberto. Hello, I have EJPT by INE, but I keep getting rejected in pen testing job roles. Of course, just because you have EJPT doesn't necessarily mean that you can do the job. And EJPT is a junior type of cert. And I always say to people, pen testing is not an entry level role. You need to have, it's entry into pen testing is really hard, and you need to have loads of skills. And if you look at pen testing roles, 99% of them want OSCP. So OSCP is a gold standard. But then again, it's not guaranteed, even if you do OCP, which is expensive. So I always say to people, get into any cybersecurity job, and then if you really want to go pen testing, then move into pen testing. But going straight from newbie into pen testing, it's almost impossible. What else we missed? Yeah, we answered this. Would you say is good money and good work balance in GRC? Yeah, yeah. Of course, obviously GRC, it comes obviously most of the time with less pressure. You're not necessarily dealing with cybersecurity incidents, responding to threats and stuff like that. So it's a bit less pressure, but obviously still, you need to manage compliance, policies, risk assessments, risk management. But yeah, there's decent money in it. That especially depends on which part of the world you are, but you can have decent roles even in UK for like 70, 80 and upwards K a year, which is, way above the average salary, whatever you do. When to start cyber? Whenever you are ready. MP, I'm trying to get an internship as a SOC analyst. Any tips or recommendations? It's hard nowadays, but I would say have a look at MSSPs. So MSSPs is managed security service providers. So they run normally SOCs for the various clients. And they obviously have a big SOC team. So that's one way to look at it. BT always offers internships. So have a look at their, I don't know which part of the world you are in, but yeah, that's something to explore. Fadi, what certifications do you recommend for career changer? No, I wouldn't recommend Fadi any certifications unless you know what role you want to do in cybersecurity. Because I can't recommend anything because everything is specific for the role you want to do. You can't recommend just any certifications. Are black hat hackers employed in a specific organization? No, because black hat hackers are illegal and they are breaking the law, so they're not necessarily employed in a specific organization. What else was there? Where to start cybersec? Start figuring out first of all what role you want to do in cybersecurity. So, do you mean my EJPT certification is useless? It's not necessarily. I wouldn't say useless, but it's a starting point. You have to build. It's going from nothing into OSCP is extremely difficult. I've done EJPT a long time ago. Because I kind of did everything from engineering to DevSecOps to pen testing to SOC analyst. So I've done EJPT a long time ago, and it's 10 times better than CH. CH is completely useless. But as I said to people, just getting one certificate doesn't not necessarily mean you're going to get a job. And you guys have to check out. So on my YouTube, there is a video that I shared. It's called something path into cybersecurity. But I talk about tactics and techniques because if you guys just blindly applying to roles, chances are you're competing against other hundreds of people. There is a way how to short circuit, how to get referrals and increase your chances and compete against 2 or 3 people instead of hundreds. Because getting into cybersecurity, you have to be strategic. You have to think about how to do this better than just, blindly applying and trying to land a role. It's not that easy. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's useless. But again, look at pen testing roles, how many of them ask for EJPT? Not many, probably, or if any. Ishan says, I'm currently studying for my A plus to get into entry level IT. Do you have any tips after this? Yeah, well, once you've done A plus, understanding operating systems hardware, then it's you building on that. Then you go into network plus, and eventually, if you want to, from IT, if you want to move into security, you do security plus. But then once you've done this trifecta, then it's about building skills. And the most important thing is I always say to people, building a home lab. So there is a video in my bio on my YouTube. There's a video how to build the best home lab for SOC analysts. Ishan, want to do GRC? And there you go, mate. Then build skills, build knowledge, get a couple of certs, and you can definitely go into GRC. What else was there? In general, is PC more secure than a phone for web browsing? It depends on the phone and depends on the PC. So, for example, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but for example, Mac is always going to be a bit more secure than Windows machine because Windows is just way more complex. And then again, if you take a phone, iPhone is going to be more secure than Android out of the box. But then depends what you do and how you secure it. You can make each of them very secure. And you can make them so secure that they become unusable. So it really depends. Coursera, Google cybersecurity course, and try hack me some paths and home lab enough to work in US. No, it's not enough. Find a job spec that asks for Google cybersecurity course. I bet you are not going to find one. So I always say, you need to get at least CompTIA Security Plus because that's 99% of the job specs need that in a starting position. And then the rest of the stuff, yes, should be enough. Home lab, building skills, building knowledge, building projects, sharing them. I always say to people, you have to be proactive in how to advertise your skills building and showcase to the world what you're doing to develop yourself. Just blindly applying and getting those certs, it's going to be very difficult and it's going to be a very long road. You have son. I don't have a son. I have stepdaughters. Uh, uh, uh. And it says learning Nmap, Wireshark, Metasploit, Parrot, Unix Suricata for SOC. Good. Yeah, good. But there's a few things missing here, Ade. You're missing EDR, so such as Wazoo. You're missing SIEM, so Security Incident and Event Management Platform. There are on Security Onion. I think you can find some of them. There is what's the called Elastic Stack and stuff like that. So yeah, cybersecurity engineering, a level 1 entry. Is it advisable to invest in CEO? What's CEO? I don't know. I get various random stuff. One day I get Yamp Stam. Another day I had. Sometimes I get Jason Statham. Sometimes I get something. Yeah, random stuff. Yeah. I think the other last time I think somebody asked, yeah, because if I was Dutch, so I'm not Dutch. How to start IT before cybersecurity? Yes, I'm familiar with Suricata. I used I think it was Suricata, yeah, before because there's a YouTube video on my channel how to build a honeypot on AWS. So that uses Suricata dashboards on it. So yeah, it's quite cool thing to play around and use in your environments and stuff like that. So yeah. How to start IT before cybersecurity. Well, just get a couple of certs, build skills and knowledge, update your CV, and then look for jobs. Yeah. What else is there? How to access a website with a proxy or VPN without detecting you are using a proxy or VPN? It's pretty much impossible because if anyone's got a logging, it's going to detect it unless you're going to use some, really advanced techniques. Yeah, well, not necessarily SOC, but I think SOC is a good starting point to build knowledge and kind of it allows you to learn so much before opening the paths into different careers. So yeah, you know, I started in SOC 10 years ago, and I think it was a great starting point to build skills, knowledge, and then I went into security engineering, architecture. I worked in DevSecOps. Did some pen testing strategies for the business and all kinds of stuff. So yeah. Is it advisable to do CH? No, CH is a waste of money and a waste of time. It's probably one of the most useless certificates you can do. How to start? Yeah. Yes, I'm getting setting up my lab. Good stuff, Eddie. Do you have topo for your home lab? I don't know what is topo. How to start? It's the same question, same thing. What exactly is the difference between Linux sysadmin and cybersecurity? Where was this question? Well, system administrator, you're not securing systems, you're just administrating systems. So you are just essentially becoming a sysadmin and you work in IT, you don't work in cybersecurity. So you are, systems administrator, you are troubleshooting, fixing, building systems and stuff like that. And cybersecurity is actually where you are actively securing and protecting systems. So it's completely, different path and different skill set. Would you say I would be missing out a lot if I don't have a degree in cybersecurity? No. I started my career in cybersecurity without a degree. And I always say to people, I always give this very simple example. Degree takes 3 years and quite a lot of money to do, but it doesn't guarantee you a job in cybersecurity. Versus, I always say, self learning path, you're getting a couple of certs and you can get a job. I got a job in 8 months, but being realistic, I always say to people 9 to 12 months. So 3 years versus 9 to 12 months and probably tenth of the cost. So why would you do a degree? I know there are job specs that ask for it, but it's a wish list. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get a degree. So I'm worked for 20 years as a police investigator in international relations, and I'm shifting to. I assume there's somewhere finish. Tangan says, "Hi, I did Network Plus and Security Plus, getting hands-on with Zoo. Want to be SOC analyst. What's next?" Well, you need a lot more than just Wazoo. You need to learn how to use Seam. As I say, go on my bio, find my YouTube channel. There is a home lab. Not only how to build a home lab, but there is plenty of exercises and stuff for you to do and practice and build and showcase the skills. Because there is stuff to do. You can do a open VARs, vulnerability management, security incident and event management platform. Patching, hardening systems. There is so many things that you can do on top of that allows you to build way more skills because Wazoo is EDR. That's just probably a tenth or 20% of what you would do in your day to day as a SOC analyst. Are you professional in cybersecurity? Yes. I've been in cybersecurity for 10 years and I'm currently a CISO, which is Chief Information Security Officer. So I'm currently in cybersecurity leadership and I've been there for more than 3 years. My degree is I've done master's degree in cybersecurity and digital forensics. Cyber now, do you think it's an advantage? So that's where was the finishing question, I think. So I'm worked in 20 years of police. Yes, of course it's an advantage. And I always say to people, there is so many different transferable skills that you can take into cybersecurity. For example, I always say teachers are great going into cybersecurity because they know how to explain difficult concepts to 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds. That's a great skill to have. You did any kind of engineering, again, you're good with, engineering, technology, critical thinking. There's so many different things that you can transfer into cybersecurity. Mm-mm-mm. Let's see what else we missed. Mm-mm-mm. How do you stay up to date with the latest CVEs, vulnerabilities, and attack trends? So there's a number of ways how you can do that. For example, I've got So obviously, we use Microsoft a lot, so we got Teams. So in Teams, you can set up a channel, which is quite cool. So you can go, for example, Hacker News and all kinds of these websites that post the latest news, the latest incidents, the latest CVEs, and you can set up RSS feeds that brings you all of the latest news at your channel. And it's a great way to keep up with that. And then obviously, if you go to more advanced organizations, they have specific threat intelligence tools that bring you that information all the time. Jose says, can cybersecurity engineering land you a level 1 entry job as a beginner? I'm not sure what you mean, can cybersecurity engineering? Do you mean, is there a certificate that you're talking about? Or what? There is noise in my background. It might be because it's windy, but I'll close the window, so sometimes it just picks up a noise. The weather in UK is terrible. No, it's not my server sound. I think it's just a noise. The wind. Hello, I want to start career in cybersecurity. How would you suggest I go about it? Figure out what you want to do in cybersecurity first. Mhm. I'm new and trying to learn Burp Suite. Do you know how I can learn? Uh, just Google it, YouTube it. There's plenty of people that And Burp Suite has got its own academy. I think you can have a look in there as well. There's various ways to learn Burp Suite. Mm. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Yazan. Dan says, what telemetry best detects legitimate feature abuse? Well, I think there's a number of ways you can do that. Obviously, the best. So you normally pair the two things together. So you pair the best EDR. So that obviously EDR goes on an endpoint and detects endpoint attacks, and then you go obviously IDS. Because obviously cybersecurity is it's like an onion. You built a number of defensive layers. But if you're talking about API attacks, then you will need to use something like um, CNAP, so cloud native. Basically, you can. There is a tools that plugs into your, for example, if you're running APIs via Kubernetes cluster, it plugs in and detects anomalies and various kind of attack telemetries. You go obviously at the front. You will use web application firewall. So there are a number of ways to kind of do that and detect those kind of attacks. Roadmap to learn cybersecurity. I finished to watch Who I Am. I'm not sure what that means, but again, as there is no roadmap to learn cybersecurity, you can learn stuff specific for the role. So you need to figure out what role you want to do. Do you think binary exploitation is easy? I never really played around with binary exploitation, but I don't think it's easy. Binaries are a quite complex thing to do. But if you're using, you can use probably tools and stuff like Metasploit to do that easier. I'm 22 and want to invest in CompTIA. Would you advise so? Yeah, of course. Look at, as I said, always look at the job specs. You will find probably CompTIA Security Plus in 90% of the job specs. So it's a sort of the gold standard of junior level certifications. So it's a good way to learn the theory. Because obviously, don't forget, most of the certifications is a good for memorization and theory skills. But then you need to build the hands-on skills. As a head of physical security, I'm interested in GRC. How do I start? I came from physical security to cybersecurity, global tech. I would say start with a couple of things. So you need to figure it out and learn how to do risk management. So obviously you've done in probably some way in physical security, but there is a great book called How to Measure Anything in Cybersecurity Risk. You need to probably land a auditing certificate. So probably something like ISO 27001 lead auditor. You need to learn how to manage compliance frameworks and learn, for example, what is NIST CSF, what is NIST RMF, and then learn and understand the structure of security policies. You'll still need to learn some technology, so I would still say do Security Plus, but that could be kind of the path into GRC, I would say. Yeah, we answered this. Roadmap to learn. I'm currently doing internship as a SOC analyst and looking forward for an open role. I can't recommend any open roles currently because I don't have any and I'm not really looking for anything. So I can't really recommend at this moment. Bugs. I'm glad I found your account and learning a lot. I'm trying to put it into. Good to hear. Good to hear that people find it useful and, guys learning something. What do you think about the Blue Team Level 1 certification? I think it's great. I think I love what Blue Team Level 1 is doing. And it's obviously it's a company from UK. They do some great stuff. They got some labs as well that you can build and develop skills. So it's great. The only probably downside is still need to gain more popularity because it's not still appearing in the job specs. But it's great about building hands-on actually because they focusing on hands-on skills and actually technical sort of development rather than just learning a theory. So yeah, they do some great stuff. In cybersecurity, we have basic Linux, right? Yeah, exactly. You just need to learn how to navigate CLI and learn the basic Linux commands. Yeah, CTF's a great startup. Lambda, yeah, definitely. Let me just see if just in case I missed any other questions. Oh, sorry, does I missed the question? So, what are some entry level jobs I should focus on the skills? Entry level jobs, again, always going to be either junior engineering roles, either SOC analyst sort of level one roles. That's kind of on the defensive side. You can focus if that appeals to you, you can do some of the GRC routes are good to explore. Um, that would be kind of the main ones because everything else I think is a bit more advanced and probably the next level. But yeah, that would be the ones. And was a wish to connect me for more insight. I said before, I get so many questions and wishful connections. There's only so much time I got in a day, so I made a move. But I said to people, I'm only going to help and actually invest some time in the school community which I've built. So there is for a reason I built a school community. If people want extra help and guidance and I'm gonna put all the certificates. I'm gonna put all the links where to buy and stuff like that. But it's only gonna happen via school. I'm not gonna. I don't have enough time in a day to do some of the rest of the stuff. How long does it take to learn to be ready for cybersecurity? I always say always to people, it depends again where you start and what technology knowledge you have. But I think you can build quite a lot of skills and knowledge sort of anywhere from 9 to 12 months. I went from pretty much zero into cybersecurity and I landed my first role in 8 months. So I think good barometer is sort of anywhere between 9 to 12 months. I think you can do quite a lot in that space of time. Yeah, we can see a couple more people coming in. Welcome, guys, joining. Got a few more. Spend a bit more time. I guess we can chat for a little bit longer. Yeah, I don't know if you missed global. I already answered this question, but yeah, it's it's perfectly fine to go in whatever you want to go. But if you prefer to go in GRC, yeah, of course you can go to GRC. And as I said, you need a couple of certs such as Security Plus, probably ISO 27001 lead auditor, and then build some skills, build some knowledge, about NIST CSF, NIST RMF, There's a book I talked about, how to measure anything in cybersecurity risk. And then, yeah, of course, that's a great path. Hello, what's the best way to bypass window AMCI? I don't remember on top of my head, but I'm sure there is bypasses in Metasploit. So have a look around in there. Frankie says any internship opportunities. Not in my current organization, no. My organization is quite small, so we don't really have much space to do internship opportunities currently. But most of the time you'll find internship in really big organizations because they have enough people to train and do all of that stuff. Was Oak says, are there penalties with cybersecurity when a mistake pops up? No. Well, it depends what kind of mistake. Is it genuine mistake or you malicious mistake? But everyone's people. Everyone can make mistakes. So it's no problem when somebody makes a mistake. Or it depends obviously what kind of leader you got. There's all kinds of people who can take it the wrong way. But yeah, cybersecurity portfolio is what I work. I can show to the deserters. Which found your channel yesterday. Street Track says, I love how you articulate the concepts. Thanks, mate. Thanks. I think sometimes it's really important to be very clear. And I always say, because I go into leadership, I had to learn a few important skills about translating, articulating, and explaining things, that non-technical people has to understand. That's why I talk about, there's a few videos about, I said, what is cyber attack, breaking down what is, even simple terms, what is AI. I think on YouTube, there was a video that I put, and it's sometimes interesting how different platforms work in different ways. But I think my video about explaining just, like a 7-year-old, what is AI, I think it's got 120,000 views on YouTube, and it's like never ending. It just gets 600 views every single day. But I think people seem to connect, when you try and explain, everything really simply, because, you know, us, I think sometimes in cybersecurity and in, technical kind of fields can become so, you know, littered with jargon that, normal people can't understand us. There's a link in my bio to my school, so it's definitely there. Uh, My final project is implement IPsec. You know, yeah, yeah. Well, IPsec is essentially what you use tunnel between VPNs. So you create an IPsec tunnel, which essentially encrypts traffic between VPN tunnels. You can do the number of ways, but yeah, good stuff. Nick, good day. How you going? I'm good, mate. I'm good. Just came back from the gym after work, spending on an hour with guys answering questions, and then yeah, gonna go watch football. As a digital forensic professional, what are the essential technical skill required to be specialized? Well, forensics, as it's it's about understanding and using the tools how to gather, first of all, forensic evidence, how to preserve forensic evidence, and how to essentially find the needle in a haystack. This is about playing around with tools because lots of people, for example, don't understand. I take your phone now, even if you deleted the files, I can still recover the files. I can still find where your phone has been in the last weeks and days, exact locations where you've been, who you called, even if you delete everything. These things do not disappear from your phone, from your hard drives. So it's about how you can gather and find evidence in the hidden places. And you need to learn a lot about where would these things normally would be hidden and how to use tools to discover these things. Uh, uh, uh. Where I'm from. So I've been living in UK for about 17 years, Nick, but I'm from Lithuania. What was the first thing you learned before becoming cybersecurity? So obviously, as I mentioned previously, I worked in physical security more than 10 years ago. So what I did is I essentially figured it out what I want to do and where I want to go to cybersecurity. I found mentor and I essentially built myself a learning path of how I'm gonna go about landing my first cybersecurity job. So it's all about, getting certificates, building skills, building home labs, and then building a pathway. Because what really I think separated me, I started building my personal brand and personal sort of presence on LinkedIn, and showcasing my journey into cybersecurity and what I was learning. Because I got my first job when I did a webinar on MITRE ATT&CK, even though I was a newbie, but I learned MITRE ATT&CK and I went and did a webinar, and my hiring manager saw that, and that's how I got my first job. Would you say Security Plus is a good cert to have? Yes, definitely. Security Plus is a gold standard when you're starting out. So definitely. Um, in UK, I would say the typical salary for an entry level SOC analyst is anywhere between 40 to 60K. I think realistically. There is obviously, it depends where you are as well, because regionally there are regions where you get a bit less money, where you get more money. But I think I started out at 50 or something like that. But yeah, can you answer the thief hacker? Is he a bad? I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. I assume it's like, as you say, it's not bad cybersecurity. Is if it's a thief hacker, he's breaking the law, and he's one day or another day he's going to end up in prison. Which is more important, portfolio or certification? Now, if I had to choose one, Rizu, portfolio is 10 times more important than certification. Because don't forget, portfolio, hands-on skills, certification, theory, and memorization. Yes, both are, could have its values, but if you just ever had to pick only one, portfolio and hands-on skills are way more important than certs. Certs is just a theory, and essentially what you do is memorize things to pass exams. So, it's a good starting point on your journey, because I always say you get the certs first, then the theory and the basics, and then you start building skills and building a portfolio. And that's how you normally, kind of manifest and build your journey into cybersecurity. What else was there? I'm on a pen testing since you said I should choose what I want to do. Only guidance will land to it. Yeah. Kind of goes in waves. There's loads of people and then there's less people. Okay. Let's do a few more minutes, last couple of questions, and then we can finish the night. Um, SSP, I think we talked today a lot about pen testing, but I would say there's no really easy road into pen testing, because pen testing is not an entry level role. So getting into pen testing is extremely difficult to start a career. So I always say to people, get into any other cybersecurity role and then move to pen testing. Because someone, I think we spoke earlier about how they got EJPT, but they can't find junior pen testing roles, because there is no junior pen testing role. Pen testing is not a junior level role, and it's really hard to get in, especially when you're starting out. What does I always say? What does cybersecurity engineering mostly entail? Well, it's a number of things. Cybersecurity engineering is about deploying cybersecurity tools. It's about automating cybersecurity tasks. It's about securing and hardening cybersecurity systems and controls. Um, Especially, for example, we nowadays work in cloud, so it's about deploying cybersecurity controls via Terraform or any other infrastructure as code languages such as CloudFormation. So it's about building security protections for the business. So, if you think SOC analyst is about investigating and detecting incidents, security engineer is the one who deploys and configures various tools, controls, and protections for the business. Essentially, that's what it is. I'm offering in my school. I'm offering extra help, guidance, courses, and support. Essentially, and we're gonna probably depends where it's gonna go and how many people want to join, but it's potentially we can do an extra training is going to be all the courses in there that you need for different career paths. We're going to talk about CVs. We're going to talk about interviewing techniques and stuff like that. Um, Global tech. I really, I talked a lot about this. I try to do and give some time to the school community, but I don't have time to do mentoring and extra all of that stuff. You have to remember, if you're not aware, guys, but I got a full time job. I've got my own company. I run Cyber Diaries podcast on cybersecurity. Um, I also do a lot of public speaking. I'm also a board advisor for a number of cybersecurity businesses. So there's only so much time in a day, and I'm building my sim rig because I want to do some sim racing as well. So there's there's so much time in a day that I can dedicate to all of these ventures. Which role is easier for me transform later? I'm not sure what you want to transform. But if you're talking about if you want to go into pen testing, you can start anywhere, but start as SOC analyst, build the knowledge and expertise, and then you can go into pen testing. What did Imran say? With the unemployment rate increasing, what's the chances of you even getting into cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is always going to be needed. So there is good chances. But as I always say, you need to be able to differentiate yourself. You need to be able to build skills and knowledge. I see loads of people, yeah, they get CCNA or they get some Google certificate and they want to get a job. You're not going to get ever a job with just doing that. So once you've done enough and built enough skills, knowledge, certificates, and expertise, then yeah, there's all the chances in the world that you're going to get a job. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Taking ISO 27001 certification is a good move if you want to go into GRC. I'm 17 and have a passion for cyber security. How do I start as a complete noob? As I always say to people, first of all, you need to figure out what you want to do in cybersecurity, and then you can start. Are you going to talk the fees only after joining? No, the fees is it's an open and publicly. It's $10 a month or $10 a month to join the school community. Okay, we're coming up to 8 o'clock. I think that's going to be it for today, guys. So As always, I'm going to create another event for next Wednesday, 7 p.m. I'm probably actually I need to have a think about because I'm going to be away from Sunday, but I have a figure out when I can do some next lives, guys. And whenever I can, and I'll start create some more events. But in the meantime, have a great evening. Yes, it's in my bio. Have a great evening, guys. It was great to chat, answer some of the questions. I'll create some more events, so make sure keep an eye on when the next lives are popping, and then we can have a great chat, help some more people get on their journey to cybersecurity. But have a great evening. Thank you guys for joining in, and I'll catch you soon.